Hey everyone, welcome back to Family Twist. Last week we met Rich Boerner, who grew up thinking he was an only child until the Polaroid fell out of his mother's address book and changed everything he thought he knew about his family. If you missed part 1, I urge you to go back and listen because that moment set off one of the most powerful stories we've ever shared on the show. This week, Rich picks up the story a while later, when one unexpected email opens a door to a whole new truth. We'll talk about what it's like to connect with a sibling you never knew you had, how forgiveness can reshape the story you grew up with, and how Rich turned his discovery into his memoir, an audiobook, The Not So Only Child. Because as we like to say around here, family secrets are the ultimate plot twist. Let's get back into it with Rich.
I said, if you want to talk, I'm here. Email comes back. The first words in the email are, it's like 3 lines. Holy shit, you can end the word. And she goes, I can't believe it. Tears are streaming down my face. It's this long email of just, oh my, I have a brother. I can't believe it. I'm here. So I email her back. I said, like, can you talk right now? Because I'm gonna send my, let's connect online because this email I'm over it. So we talked for probably 2 hours and connected, and we did so. We promised to do so like weekly, and we did so weekly for probably a couple of months because there was so much to catch up on and to find out, and for me to try to detective work, find out how, why, who knew, and how did this happen. And it was great. It was healing on many levels because it enabled me to give me details so I could theoretically wear his shoes and go, oh, okay. So it could take a lot of the anger, resentment, or anything else I had towards this man and turn it into something that's like, what would you do in that situation? It's like, you know what? I don't know the answer because I could never be in it, but I can see where it's like, oh, damn, he's trapped. Now, as far as the relation, whatever, it's all good. But apparently, this this man and my mother worked together for almost 40 years in a couple of different jobs.
Wow.
But he was married, and in those times, for him, divorce would have been not an option. And also his ex, my sister found out from her mom because he died 9 months after my mom died. And at the last minute changed where he wanted to be buried to the same cemetery where my mom is. But my sister didn't know she was in there. My sister's family didn't know that my mom was in that cemetery until I told her in our conversations. She was like, what? He changed it the last minute. He changed because he was going down. He knew his heart was failing, and he changed where he wanted to be. He said, I have to be in this cemetery. So he said, I took him there and we bought a plot. So there were just so many layers to this story. The reason why I wrote it was I'm so happy it's out as a book and an audiobook and everything else. I tried for 10 years to create this story. Because every time I told it to somebody, like, oh my God, you have to tell this story. You should write a book. But I'm an audio guy. I've always been since I got my first little handheld tape recorder. I can write. Sure, I had to write in high school and college. I had to write papers, but those are torture. They're torture, right? So there's no artistry to them, So I tried and tried and tried. Initially, after trying and not succeeding, I hired a ghostwriter. And the ghostwriter started writing a story about me. And I was like, no, you don't get it. I'm sorry. So I said, here's your money. Thank you. I appreciate you. You're an excellent writer, but this is not what I would need. And it just sat for a while. And then I had a friend who I had helped develop his podcast. He's an ex-NBA player named Paul Shirley. And he was a writer too. And he had actually Fox bought a book from him and they messed up his book. And I helped him create a podcast called Stories I Tell on Dates out of the book that he wrote. I'm like, dude, no, we can create this deep podcast, almost like a narrative story. And we did. And so he also he had a brick and mortar business called the Writer's Block in LA, where people would just come and pay for sessions and everything else. And he said, you can come for whatever you want for free. And I, once a month I'd come down and spend an hour and a half and be like, I got so much done. I'm good. But I couldn't figure out the story arc. I was like, what's the payoff? What's the arc and what's the payoff? So I just kind of shelved it. I'm talking to him 2 years ago, and he says to me, dude, why don't you stop banging your head against the wall and just get in the booth and say it? I was like, what? He goes, I've seen you in the booth. I know what you do. Just get in the booth and say it. Take the pages in there. Don't read them. Just go. So this book was created in this booth right here. I had notes. Sometimes I had written stuff, but not to read. I had notes. I had everything else and just sat and created. I was like, okay, let me create the first 2 chapters. And I created them and I started sharing them with friends who were in the podcast industry. And they were like, wow, this is dynamic. And this is a good story. And I was like, okay. And then I let it sit again. I was like, okay, dude. And I really wanted this to exist for my kids, most of all. I love sharing the story with you and for the rest of the world because people say, that's a fascinating story. It's great. It's funny. It's heartwarming, all that. But I needed my kids to know because my eldest was 3 when my mom died. The other 2 were not even born. So I needed them to know not just about me, but about the history of who my parents were and what happened and all the rest. And I reconnected with a friend from radio days and said, hey, what's been going on? So I'm filling her in on, she's in a new venture. She's doing this. Tracy, she's doing this and I'm doing that. And I told her about the book. She goes, I would love to hear it. Would you share that with me? I'm like, yeah, sure. Okay. So I share the first 2 chapters. She comes back, oh my God, would you mind if I gave you notes? This is an amazing story and I want to hear so much more. I'm like, sure, send notes. So she sends notes. And again, it's not notes where I would look and go, oh man, this is the worst ever. They were legit. I don't understand this. This is it. And it's like, so I'm like, oh, I got to fix these. Now I had an assignment. I fixed these and she said, I can't wait to hear more. Now I have to do chapter 3. So I did chapter 3 and send it. And she's like, I need more. Literally like my muse. And I would I got to get 2 more chapters for her. Okay. And while I'm doing this, like one of those nights at 1:30 in the morning, I'm sitting there and I'm going, all right, I need to know what the rest of the chapters. I kind of have a few mapped out, but I'm like, all of a sudden it won't click. Here it is. Chapter. And this is where I am. And I was like, thank you, universe, which is a theme throughout the book. The universe wanted something else. So, it was amazing to create it in that way. And I say that in the front of the book, intro to the book, the prologue to the book, I talk about, this is how I created this. I apologize for any grammatical errors you might see in there. I did my best to clean them up and make them readable. I did this by speaking. It's not just me reading. It's me reading. I'm the only voice in the book. I didn't create other voices and make it cartoony, but it's me and music and sound effects. People connected with it. I listened to it. You're always your own worst critic. And I'm like, should I redo that chapter? I could get more into it. And other people like it. So I'm like, no. Stop messing with it.
Yeah. Let it live.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it changes. I'm sorry, the discoveries. And I know you've addressed this in your other shows too. It changes your DNA. It changes everything because it doesn't just change your life story that you had in your head. It changes the world around you, how you perceive things. It changes your DNA.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I love that that's the way that you did it because we're working on Kendall's story right now. And the way that I'm thinking of approaching it is like sort of a ghostwriter, helper, whatever, is just turn on the recorder and I interview him and let him start telling his stories and stuff because, it's his voice is the important one. I think the way you did it is more authentic. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah, no. See, and that's the beauty is like, Kendall, like, the story. So you'll tell the story, but you might need to be prompted in certain ways with certain questions or certain things. Or you might, because you know the details so well, you might leave some details out. And that's not like you're trying to hide anything. It's just like when we tell stories, we try to stay as focused as possible. So it's like, oh, there are little things that fall off the cart as we're going because I don't have time to go there. But like Corey interviewing you could be like, well, wait a minute. When you said that and that happened, what did that mean? You're like, well, that's a story within itself. But when you're telling it, you're not going to share that.
No, Corey, find those passageways.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. People have said to me after doing this, and these are industry folks that I know, other people may want to do this. I just can't figure out the logistics of how to create something to make it easy enough, because you guys do this for a living or regularly, and it'll be easier for you to do it. Most folks, as you know, when they get a microphone or a camera, like,
Anxiety.
I don't want to suck. I don't want to suck. I don't want to, and I can't remember anything, and I can't, and so it's a matter of, how can you help? But in your case, Kendall, it's not like you'll be nervous, but you'll have a focused version of every one of your stories, because you've told it repeatedly, and you may very left, very right, meander and weave a little bit, but you have a focused version. Now, Corey, you're going to be sitting there listening going, okay, there's 3 sub-stories in here that we're going to talk about, but I'm going to bring them up one at a time for him and let him roll.
And after 20 years, he knows those stories really well, so he can help me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because and being the person who didn't live it, he has a totally different perspective of how juicy the story is, how much depth there is to the story, and how important it is for other people to know it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and we won't get into any kind of detail here, but, we've practiced this a couple of times or done a couple of tests where I'm just like, I just get out the recorder, forget it's there. We're standing in the kitchen, and just, I'm asking him questions and he's telling the story. And there was a wild incident that will be a crazy chapter in the book that happened post-discovery.
Mm-hmm.
I felt completely helpless because I'm hundreds of miles away when Kendall's calling me and telling me what's happening. And it's just like, oh my gosh. So I think we recorded for like 2 hours or something, just telling that one story. And it's like, okay. Well, and then that's the level of detail that you're going to want, for him talking about his adoptive parents. He's got very vivid memories of them, as a little sassy Kendall.
Right. Well, see, there's a real warmth and good in connection in your voices together, which will make something like that really enjoyable to listen to. You can turn anything you do here into print. It can be an ebook and whatever. It's not that difficult. I did it. Yeah. It's a matter of when you get to print, trying to keep it as close to the actual written word as possible, and without removing too many ums, hems, and haws and things like that. Because when you tell a story, you can say it 4 times in 30 seconds, but when you read, it's like that. You just keep throwing me off. So it's a matter of just minor cleanup. But yeah, that would be cool. I'd be excited to hear what you guys do.
So, Rich, what was the reaction from your kids when they read the book?
My eldest had even though they were 3 when their grandmother died, they were 3 going on 4. They had a really tight connection from the time they were able to communicate to other humans. And in fact, it caused some issues with my ex's mom, because like, why? There was no answer. It's not like we paid the baby. There was just a really tight connection. In fact, there was a time at age like 2 something, we were visiting my mom in that little apartment I grew up in. And I think one time before, they had been upstairs with my mom, and I sat there, and we needed something from the living room, from the kitchen. And it was something that was in the kitchen under the sink or whatever. And my mom said, I'll get it. And Shannon said, I know it, and ran and got it. I'm like, how do you know? And even my mom was like, how did they know where this was? And it was just like this really deep connection. I'm like, oh, wow. I've always been a believer in the possibility of reincarnation, past lives and stuff. I'm like, you guys must have been buds in a past life. Buds, whatever, together. You must have been together at some point, some way, shape, or form, because it was just an instant connection. And like, put them in my mother's arms when crying, and they stopped. And so anyway, that when they read it, it took when they listened. They didn't read it. They listened. I shared before even publishing. I said, look, I'm thinking of publishing this, and I need you to hear it. You're in this. I want to make sure you're okay with all that stuff. And I sent it, and it was just like I positive words, but just, I'm hysterical crying because I'm so sad that I lost that connection and have never had it, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So my son, who's second in line, is also he's skilled like me at trying to hide his emotions. He didn't share. He just said, "Hey, Dad, it was really good." And he was one of the first ones to buy a book when it came out. I was like, "I can get you a free one." He's like, "No, I wanted to buy one." Then my youngest, who's 13 and not from my ex, was with my wife and read it. And I was like, well, this will be interesting because he only appears as a mention in the very end because he's not really integral to the story, to be honest. I said, and he read it and he came out and he's a voracious reader. So I was like, you'll read this in like 30 seconds. It's slightly less than 200 pages. He came out one night and goes, I stayed up. It was like 12:30. And I'm like, what are you doing up? He goes, I stayed up. I read it. This is such a good story. You're such a good writer. I appreciate that. I really do, especially coming from somebody who reads as much as you do. I said, I know you had a special connection, so maybe I get a grain of salt with that review. But people, they seem to like it. So, I mean, everybody I've shared it with has had positive response to it because I think it's not just my story. There's so many elements of what other people have gone through, kind of like, Kendall, with you, how you understand your story and then all the people you guys talk to. And every time you run into somebody, you're like, yeah, I know. And there were so many, I don't know if 40 years from now, there'll be the same kind of stories of magical discoveries, DNA discoveries and everything else, because everything is so out there and open right now. But everything, until we got to the 90s, everything was kind of behind a closed door, keep it there, keep the secrets, don't talk about it and all the rest. So, but like I said, the main purpose of writing this book, besides being catharsis for me and helping me get through the process of figuring out, finishing the process of forgiveness for both my parents. I love my mom dearly, but then there was that thing of like, how did you not tell me? I'm angry at you, but I love it for my father getting through that, learning his story and what he dealt with and learning to go, oh, okay, I see there's some nobility to some of the things he did and situations he handled them, as opposed to going, you suck. Right. Why did you do this? Why didn't you? If you were unhappy in that one, I totally understand. Based on the way my sister described her life growing up, even though they had much more, she still joked, next time I'm pushing you off the cloud first. We were born the same year. We're Irish twins. We're 6 months apart.
Yeah.
Wow. So, Rich, there's a question that we've been asking as of late to all of our guests, and this will be interesting. Is there a song, an album, or an artist that you kind of leaned on as you were writing the book that helped the process?
Do you know, I have such diverse musical taste because I feel music. I literally feel music. So, I went through a period, my angry periods, I was heavily into Nine Inch Nails and Rage Against the Machine, because I feel it. So when that comes up, I still feel the connection. I'm not saying that was what I used for the book. No, absolutely not. But I still feel that connection. So there's a few songs I'm like, yes, I feel the energy. I feel the connection. But for this book here, the song that comes to mind immediately, and I listened to it a bunch. I don't listen to it every day, but it was from Peter Gabriel's So album. It's called Red Rain.
Oh, yeah.
Red Rain. And there's so much, Red Rain can be perceived emotion, so much emotion in there to feel it, but it's almost like I feel, it's like a sadness raining on me. And then once it washes over me, I feel like, oh, I feel better. And that's how I've always heard that song. It's kind of like, oh, it starts, and it could even be just, the chords, the keyboard chords and everything else that start in that song. But it's washing down all over me, and then it's done. And now I feel clean. I feel better. So, I mean, others have perceived it differently. You can do what you want. You can turn it into, whatever you want. But that's how I heard that. So if I were going to take one of my favorite songs and relate it to this, it would be Peter Gabriel's Red Rain, because that was the process of going through this whole thing.
That's awesome. And it's a great album.
Oh, yeah.
Like when people answer this question, I often get to feel the chills like in my brain, a little bit, just because Kendall and I are the same way. Like we feel music, and there's music almost constantly playing in our lives. So that's good. And a new Nine Inch Nails album dropped today, Rich.
I heard the track the other day when I was driving my 13-year-old to school, because we listened to the alternative station, of course. And again, now I listen, I'm like, up to about 2015, I can name the artist, but beyond there, I'm like, who's that? Who's that? Who's that? I've reached that point. I'm like, ding.
I thought that would happen to us, but we're the same.
So, but that's exciting. I heard that and I was like, oh, I have to check that out. I definitely have to check that out.
Sure.
It's quite all right, because the reason, like I said, they were dark, that helped me explore my darkness, explore the shadow and dive into the shadow. The problem is, don't get caught in the shadow.
Right.
Don't let the shadow the steering wheel. You can even have the shadow in the front seat with you if you need it, but don't give the shadow the steering wheel. But it's okay, because, like, just to say, it's not going to, for me, I know it's not going to go away. And the more I try to chain it and box it, the stronger it will get. So if I just say, yeah, I'm going to be with you for a while, and I'm feeling intense angst and maybe sadness, and I'm going to let's live this for a little bit, and now it's done.
Yep.
No, it's cool.
Well, Rich, we really appreciate you sharing your process. I think it's going to be helpful for us as we approach Kendall's book. And of course, we appreciate your bravery of just putting the story out there. I mean, it's not something that obviously everybody could do. So it's kudos to you for that.
Yeah, thank both of you. You have my email. Let's stay in touch. Let me know if you have questions or anything else. I'm the king of free advice. Some of it's good, some of it's not. As you're diving into doing this, I've created a bunch of these myself. If I can help guide you in any way, shape, or form, or give you some tips, let me know.
Absolutely. Definitely appreciate that.
Well, thank you, guys. I appreciate you. Like I said before, don't forget, if you are interested in the story, it's The Not So Only Child, My True Story, and you can get it on Amazon as an audiobook, an ebook, or print. The print cover looks pretty cool, by the way. A friend of mine designed the art, and when I first saw it, I was like, oh, that's a lot. I showed it to my family and everything else. They're like, so cool. I'm like, okay, I'm cool. Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah, we'll definitely share the links, and all of that will be in the show notes. But yeah, we're definitely staying in touch. That's been one of the best things about doing this podcast, is wonderful people and getting to hear their amazing stories.
I appreciate you guys. Thanks so much.
That was Rich Boerner, author of The Not So Only Child. His story still gives us chills, not just for what he discovered, but for how he chose to tell it. Rich didn't sit down to write a traditional memoir. He walked into the recording booth, turned on the mic, and spoke right from the heart. And that became his audiobook, honest, raw, and right from his lived experience. You can find The Not So Only Child on Amazon in print, ebook, or audio, and we'll have a link in our show notes. What I really love most is that Rich made this story for his kids so they understand who he is and where he came from. That's personal, brave, and it's what our show is all about. Finding connection through truth. Big thanks to Rich Boerner for sharing his story, and for you being part of the Family Twist community. We'll be back next week with another story that proves family secrets really are the ultimate plot twist. The Family Twist podcast is presented by Savoir Faire Marketing Communications and produced by How the Cow Ate the Cabbage, LLC.